and welcome back to Bookish Theories. Now, since Stray Kids just announced their Japanese comeback, in today's video we'd like to catch up with Scars, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics and the music video to see what they can tell us about the concept and the storyline. Scars is a song co-written by Sriracha and co-composed by Bang Chan that explores the importance of embracing your own scars and keep going despite of the difficulties that we have to confront. Now, according to the information that Bang Chan gave us in his Chan's room, this is a song that he started working on about 2 or 3 years ago, possibly around the time where the boys were promoting Levanter. This is a track with a strong sentimental value that truly expresses Stray Kids' perspective on the hardships that they had to face, and as we see in a second, the song deals with this topic by focusing on the importance of being honest about their struggles. You see, if in the past we get the sense that the boys used to hide their hardships and face them alone, now the focus of the song seems to be on bearing it all and show these scars as a way to confront the past and heal from it. In the song, the scars that the boys carry inside of themselves are compared to special tattoos that over time became a part of who they are. Much like tattoos, these marks were acquired through a painful process that to a certain extent changed them in comparison to their past selves, but as the song tells us, this change is only superficial because their pain will never change their heart. This is because in the process of getting these metaphorical tattoos, the boys also learn to embrace them as part of themselves. Since difficulties are a part of life, it's no use to cry about them because this is something that will never change. Every person has to face hardships and every person has their own scars, but even if these marks are a testament of the pain that we suffered, they're also a proof of something that we were able to overcome. Because of that, a scar that comes from a painful wound can become a beautiful tattoo that we earn the right to show off, and in the song, Stray Kids are doing exactly that, not only to be honest about their struggles, but also to share with you their own way of overcoming them. As the lyrics tell us, for instance, in the past there were moments where the boys felt like falling, other times where they felt overwhelmed, crushed, and never had the time to heal from the wounds that still gave them pain. As much as they suffered, however, the song also tells us that they always found a way to endure it all and stand back up by finding strength inside of themselves. Whenever they fell in a world of darkness waiting for dawn, the boys' approach was always to turn on their own light in order to brighten the road that was ahead of them. This light is what gave them strength, what gave them hope, and what allowed them to keep going. So even if they know that in the future they might face new hardships in their journey, the boys also know that they will never give up and rediscover the smile that they lost. Now in the video, this whole concept is expressed with a story set in a post-apocalyptic reality that the boys have to navigate with the help of one another. At first glance, we can see that this reality is not only very similar to the one that we saw in Noisy, but also to the dystopia that was portrayed back in the Class series. Now these visual callbacks actually make a lot of sense, not only because they reference the idea that the boys are going through a difficult journey, but also because they show us that this journey has started a long time ago and is still going on to this day. Bear in mind, according to Bang Chan, he wrote the song around the time that they were promoting Levanter, so their journey is portrayed in a similar way to give a sense of continuity between their past and their present. If in the past they compared their hardships to a dystopia where the stars were falling, as they remember those times, the imagery is still pretty much the same. If you look closely, however, this is not the same world that we saw back in Clay, and to be honest, this is not even the noisy reality that we were introduced back in that album. As we see in a second, the story that we see in Scars is set in a completely different world that has been destroyed by a completely different threat. If we take a look at the papers and posters that we see in the background, for instance, we discover that this is a reality that has lost its light for a long time and that has been taken over by ghosts. In this dystopia, the survivors have to watch out for the darkness, and this is because these entities actually thrive in the dark and are scared away by the light. You see, much like the pain that scarred Stray Kids, the ghosts are entities that started haunting the world the moment this reality lost its light. Like these creatures, the sorrow that they're singing about is something that thrives in the darkness and that is easier to keep at bay when we remember to turn on the light. So the journey that we see in the video is essentially a metaphor for the inner journey that is described in the song. As we see since the opening scene, for instance, each of them have tattoos that reference the scars that the song is all about. When they first start this journey, however, their wounds are still fresh, thus implying that this quest is essentially a quest towards healing. In order to accomplish this task, the boys have to find the light in the darkness and drive their personal ghost away, and as it turns out, this is exactly what takes place in the story itself. At the beginning, for instance, the MV shows us the boys wandering in this haunted world by themselves. Since the lighting is warm and Changmin is checking his watch, we can assume that this is the sunset and the boys are actually looking for a shelter before nightfall. Even if the poster tells us that the spirits come out at night, in the sky we already see some of them hovering above them. Because of that, we get a sense of urgency in this situation, because if at sunset the ghosts are already there, then it's fair to assume that at night it's only gonna get worse. Luckily enough, however, the boys find shelter in an abandoned trailer, and as soon as they get in, we see the members start working on a circuit. When the night comes and more spirits start to appear, Lino eventually manages to make contact and switch on the lights that surround the shelter. Lino's intervention here draws the creature away, thus allowing the boys to come out and relax, and at this moment we see the first apparition of a falling star. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this site might actually be a reference to Levanter, where the falling stars actually led the boys to an epiphany. You see, back then, the boys were traveling towards a new world, but the stars eventually showed them that this new world was an illusion and that the real change had to start from themselves. This time around, the stars don't have the same meaning per se, but to a certain extent, they lead to an epiphany nonetheless. If you look closely, the video shows us a total of 8 falling stars. The first one that the boys see gives them comfort and makes them smile, but the next day we see other 4 falling together at the same time. This sight leads the boys to follow the light despite of the ghosts that surround them, and as they are guided by the fireflies, stray kids eventually arrive in front of a giant structure full of light. This box seems to contain the light of the 5 stars that already fell, but when the boys arrive in front of it, we see other 3 landing together at the same time. When this happens, stray kids reach out to them, thus embracing the light that will eventually banish their ghost. So what we're seeing here is essentially the boys channeling the light of 8 stars to destroy the darkness that surrounds them. If the 8 stars represent the 8 members, this might imply that the source of the boys' light is none other than their unity, and this idea is also reinforced right at the end. You see, in the final sequence, we discover that this was Oh Bang-chan's dream. In his drawing, however, we see that the 8 stars eventually become a single streak of light that banish 8 ghosts into the darkness. This might imply that the source of their healing is their unity, because without it they wouldn't be as strong. Their connection, moreover, is also referenced right at the end, because even if the last part of the video never happened, when Ayan sees the falling star, he seems to remember something that never actually took place. This might be yet another callback to the other storyline, because in the main Stray Kids plot, Jongin is actually an oracle. In this haunted world, Ayan seems to have the sight as well, and this possibly gives him the ability to remember a scenario that took place in another time and another space. Despite all the differences and timelines and worlds, however, one thing that stays constant is their friendship, so by the end, the video immortalizes this unity because it's something that will never change. If in Scars we healed our wounds, however, to know what Circus has in store for us, we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.